Dude, can I move this though?
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Otherwise, I'm just gonna start facing this way.
5 years now?
5 years, baby. Going on year number 5.
You may hear me call him Matthias a little bit. It's kind of a nickname we developed through the years.
Only a few people call me Matthias, and you're one of them.
Yeah, or anybody that watches this is a great hook to get your interest.
I guess.
Matt's like one of the top performers I've ever worked with, man. Your rookie
Appreciate
year,
it, bro.
your rookie of the year when you came out, then you were top recruiting year 2, and ever since then just kind
Your rookie of the year. I was number 5 in the company.
Yeah, but everybody only cares about my rookie year, okay? And then coming into year 5, man, you've pulled in over $3.5 million in total revenue to the company, man. So I'm really excited.
Decent tenure, I guess.
Decent tenure. I'm just really excited to dig deep into that and help people understand who you are. And kind of where I want to start is probably one of my absolute favorite stories about you is how you got recruited and why you chose Moxie.
Yeah. So I'll try to make a long story kind of short.
Okay.
But what happened was I was in school studying business and exercise science, and then one of my buddies. So I served a 2-year mission for my church, and one of my buddies from that reached out to me, and he's like, "Hey, have you ever thought about sales?" And I was like, "No, that sounds awful." Yeah, it sounds absolutely terrible. And he just said, "Hey, you might want to give it a look." Long story short, I ended up joining with him and his team, but I didn't feel good about it. Didn't feel comfortable. Didn't feel ready. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
And so after deliberation and in one of my business classes, we were in a group project, and one of my friends in that class was like, "Hey, I'm working at a company called Moxie. Sounds like it's completely different because all the things that you're feeling, like, I don't feel that way." I was like, no way.
Yeah.
So then I ended up meeting with Tanner at Moxie. Tanner Bourne, amazing person.
Incredible person, top performer, but like amazing character, man.
Absolute beast. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like when I walked in that meeting, because I had met with about a dozen different companies at this point that had tried to recruit me, and every single one of them was talking about, basically just facts and figures, just all numbers, just try to jam it down my throat. And I was like, okay, I mean, I'm broke, so I guess I need a job, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so then, and I had talked to my now wife, then fiance, Brooke, and we just literally, Moxie was the only place that we felt comfortable, because when I met with Tanner, I felt like his values were in line with mine, right? He basically, when I walked in and, we had an interview, he basically said, "Yeah, if you're not willing to do this with integrity and like work hard, I'm like, I don't even really want you." Of sorts, right? And I was like, oh man, I totally can get behind that, right? You weren't just trying to like blow smoke. So yeah, I felt good about that. And then it was kind of just like this massive wave, because we had already gone with this other company, and then I met with Tanner, and then I met with you, and then I went out to lunch with Tim, and then that night we went to Jason's Summer Foundation. Mind you, you guys were leaving out for the summer in April, and this was like the last few days of March.
Yeah.
So like in my mind, it's like the decision's kind of already made, but it was like the last ditch effort. So anyway, after that meeting with Jason, it had impacted me so much that literally I walked out of the Moxie building and I looked to Brooke and I was like, because you guys were selling in DC, and with this company we were going to go in California, in LA, and I just looked at Brooke and I was like, "Are we going to DC?" And she just looks at me, she's like, "Yeah, we're going to DC."
Yeah, man.
So
could you go on that a little deeper? Because when I'm talking to reps, like when I'm like, why Moxie, like it just comes back to like our principles and our core values, and like if you can connect with that, like I feel like this is a great place for you to be. So what were you able to connect to during Jason's meeting where it just became like a no-brainer? This is where you need to be.
Yeah, so I'll kind of give a little bit of foundation, because let's keep in mind, I'm a college student at this point. I was broke as a freaking joke, okay?
Yeah.
Like literally, I was about to get married in like, I don't know, 2 months, maybe less. And I had $300 in my bank account. So like,
ready to roll.
Exactly. Right. So I'm like, oh baby. So yeah, I was like, yeah, I need a well-paying job. And so that was kind of the first thing that like, you know, checked that off the list. But on top of that, it was like, yeah, when I walked into Jason's training, I just saw something different. Like there was like immediately more trust. I knew that I would perform better. I believed more in the company, in the product, in the people. And there was just that fluidity. And I was like, wow, like I think I'm going to perform better here. I think I'll do better here. And to me, that was just really important, you know, because when they're talking about integrity, gratitude, hard work, making and keeping commitments, and communication skills, like that to me was way more well-rounded and more important to me of who I wanted to develop as myself, rather than just, oh, you think you're so cool, like you can make a ton of money. And I was like, that was not a message that I could vibe with at all.
Yeah.
And so I knew that it would give me a foundation on which I could build to become the person that I actually desired to be. So
that's amazing. That's kind of like why I'm here too. I remember my story when I left the previous company I was with. Like, I was just really looking for a place that I could really trust.
You were in California too, right?
No.
Indianapolis?
Yeah,
okay.
Indy and Atlanta.
Nice.
And kind of moving forward, I was just really looking for someone that I could trust, but like I could see what door to door was turning a lot of people I knew into, and I wasn't the biggest fan of that, and I didn't want to become some of those things. And so when I connected at Moxie, the same thing. It was with Tim, it was Jace's, and it was that message of like working and selling with integrity and constantly increasing that. And kind of diving into that a little bit. Yeah. You've done over 300K in some of your best summers. You put on a ton of accounts. I just kind of want to take a second. Like, I think we have the reputation everybody knows. Like, we have the absolute best service out there. Like, you know, for sure, like maybe there's some guy that has like 5 customers and he lives with them or whatever, right? But like on a scalable growth company, like we have the best service.
Can you imagine if your pest control guy lived with you?
I try to be that guy. I'm just kidding. But I look at that and then the success that you've had, now we just can't get off the fact of being the pest control guy. Maybe
dude, I'm just going to start living with customers, man. Just be like, I'll take care of you.
I'll take care of you. I'll move in, dude. I think that would sell really well.
Yeah, dude, that's scalable, right?
Totally scalable. Knowing that we have the best service, how does that help you in recruiting, and how does that help you sell?
It makes all the difference. So I think the first thing, and maybe I should have mentioned this beforehand, but the reason I knew that I would do better here is because, like I had briefly mentioned, I felt better about the company, about the product and service, and I felt, like I said, that fluidity. And so for me, knowing that I'm actually, so here's my thing. I can't sell something if I know that there's something better out there. Like, yeah. in my opinion, right? I feel like I would just do worse. No, if it's tech sales, it doesn't matter what kind of sales. If there's a better product out there that, like, if I'm trying to sell a high quality premium product and I know that there's literally a better service in the same marketplace that I'm in, like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, I wouldn't be able to do that and feel good, right? There's a difference. If I wanted to go and sell like a really cheap product and be like, yeah, I know I'm not the best, but like, this is a super cheap product, you know, but that's not what I wanted to do either. And so, like, I felt really good about our premium service, and I knew that it was the best. And so that to me made all the difference. And I knew that I would make more money, and I knew that I would do better and feel better and be in line with my values, knowing that I was actually proposing to potential clients like, oh, this is the best thing that you could get for this type of service on your home.
Yeah, and you can totally feel that passion as you're sharing it, and like that totally leads in the way you sell, but particularly like the way you recruit.
Yeah, definitely.
You've recruited tons of sales reps. You've created a ton of leaders, man.
Look, if you're out there and you're talking about, you're trying to recruit people and you're saying, oh, do this because we have the best service, it's like, you can't just say that and then it's true. Like, you have to have all of the backing in order for that to actually be facts, and then you can say that, right? Because we didn't go around saying that we had the best service and then it happened. we worked hard to create the best service, and then we started telling people that it was the best service, right?
Yeah.
And so, in recruiting, I think it's pivotal, like, because you need a couple things to have a good experience. Like, obviously, you got to have the right culture. Obviously, you got to have the sales, right?
Yeah.
But most importantly, your operations have to be on point. Like, you have to have the right service. And so, for exactly the market that we're going for, we're taking over that market share because we do have the best service. And so, for me, it just makes recruiting way easier, because if you have the best thing that everyone's claiming that they have, but they don't, well, it's just easy. Just makes it way easier.
It does make it a lot easier, man. And this job's full of challenges, man. So, like, take the easy ones, man. Go sell for the best service.
Yeah.
And kind of leading, like, your recruiting, one of the things I've been able to see from your leadership, besides a lot of production numbers, is, like, how bought in your guys are. And so something I think you'll be forever famous for is, like, what you did this past summer, where you got everyone in your division to sign on in one day in July once the offers were ready. And for anybody that's new, July is probably the time you don't want to sell pest control ever again.
It's
in the rest of your life.
The trenches, as I call it.
It's the trenches, man. It's when things are hard, like all of your excuses come to service. And then as Jason Walton says, like, I know the man you are by the way you perform in August, right? And so
True.
For a lot of reps, and over my experience, and understandably, you know, selling next year is not the first thing on their mind, but you were able to run...
Wasn't on mine.
My first time. But your culture was so on point. Your reps were selling so well, and they're having such a good experience that it was a no-brainer for them to sign on one day, man. Would you mind talking about what led up to having that event happen?
Yeah. Well, thanks, by the way. I mean, there's a couple of things, but for me, it just comes down to, like... And I don't want to make it sound like I did nothing, but when you have the systems, the culture, the company, the leadership is all in place, like, to me, I just feel like it makes it way easier to have success in regards of, like people wanting to be around you, because it is actually a successful experience, however you want to define success. But for me, the biggest thing, let me see if I can find it really quick.
And while you're looking for that, like, I agree, like, this is probably by far the best vehicle, but I think leadership's the fuel, man. It's actually what makes the engine go.
Totally. I actually just literally yesterday listened to this podcast, and it had this quote in here, and I just thought it was freaking genius.
Yeah.
He said, people want to follow people who are authentic. And the only way to do that is simply being the exact same in private as you are in public, and having zero discrepancy between those two things. And so for me, I really just try to be the same person in the dark as I am in the light. And when you do that, you just build trust, you build relationships. And to me, those are the most important things. Like, I'm going to look back on this, and I'm not going to think about, like, the money I made or, like, you know, whatever. I'm going to think about the memories, the experiences, the people, and those relationships that I've developed. And so I think, like, for me, it just comes down to, like, I really do care about everyone that I work with. Everyone that I hire and work with, like, I care about a lot. And I care about their experience. I care about, you know, the direction that they want to go. And I just try. I mean, I'm not perfect in any way, but I just try to do my best to help them get there. And there's a lot of different applications and how to do that, but, like, that's how I feel, and that's what I'm trying to do. And so even if it's clunky or imperfect, like, I think that others can feel that.
Well, it's true, man. And there's very, very few people that I've ever worked with where their reps are, like, so loyal and, like, so dedicated to a leader, man. Like, there's a lot of love I know you have for your reps, and it's reciprocated on there and strongly, man. And I've had so many conversations with you where you're just literally just like, what's in the best interest of my rep? How can I help them out the most? How can I go deeper in the first creation? Help them discover, like, their why they're really out there. And, like, you're better than most people I've met at helping people tap into that, man. And I think that's
Thank
huge.
You. Yeah, I appreciate that. Definitely don't feel that way.
Well, your numbers say that, so that matters for something, man.
Appreciate that.
And I know it's not the money you'll be looking back on, but, like, it's not the worst either. You know, I know the money you made. It's been really, really good, man. It's been really good. And kind of moving forward, man, and speaking of being authentic, one of the things I loved was the way your team responded after losing in the tournament.
Oh,
so you guys, we'll post it somewhere, but we run some pretty competitive tournaments, and this one, Rio was on the line.
Oh, man.
And
so pissed. I want to go
you
to Rio.
guys performed really, really well, but
oh, man.
then you guys lost, right? But
and then, sorry.
Go ahead.
Not only did we lose, and then after the tournament was over, there was a round robin, and then we lost again. Double loss.
You lost twice.
We lost twice. Double losers, but, it's okay.
It is okay, man, because it's the way you guys responded to it. Like, typically, almost everyone else after the loss, like, there tends to be a drop in performance, right?
Oh, yeah.
Your performance didn't just flatline. Like, it actually increased. Why don't you share about that?
Yeah, so my theme this year to help my team produce was really just like trust the process. Like I totally sounded like I was beating a dead horse for sure. Like I probably annoyed some of my reps. But,
doubt it, but go on.
Yeah. So I really focused on trusting the process because there's three things, right? There's the results that you want, and then there's the things that you have to do in order to get those results. And then there's the identity that you tie to yourself. So like if you believe you're the type of person to do the things that it requires to get those results, then the results will naturally happen, right? Most people, they're focused on Rio. They're focused on the results. They're like, yeah, we got to do this. And then when they lose, the result is stripped from them. So they're like, I'm out. I'm done, right? But for me, I just really had my guys focus on, hey, our identity like is not Rio. Our identity is the fact that day in, day out, we do this. Like this is what we're really good at. We trust the process, and every single day we just plug away at that process. And so I remember I was giving the training the day after we lost, and like, I made a teeny small announcement about that, just like, hey, trusting the process. But then overwhelmingly the rest of my team was like, yeah, like it really wasn't about that. It's about us. It's about who we are. It's about the things that we do. Like it's about that process that day in and day out we go and do. And I specifically remember like some of my leaders, like Mason, like he was just like really amped about that. And he's like, guys, doesn't matter. Like we're just going to go do what we do. And literally that day, and then later that week we PR'd, and then we PR'd again. And I was just like, this is great. So like,
it's amazing.
Yeah. So like not having an incredibly high and then not having a total crash and burn, but really just focusing on the things that we can do rather than the results themselves.
Yeah. And going back to the results part, man, like I had a lot of fun calling your reps and kind of interviewing them. And I was just like trying to think of some stories that described your leadership, man. And like, one of my favorite ones was from Boston. And
love Boston. Shout out to Boston.
Shout out to Boston. It was the U-turn you made for ice cream, man. Do you want to tell that story?
Oh, Effies. That's the name of this ice cream shop. So, yeah.
The ice cream shop's name is Effie's. Sorry.
Correct, yeah. So we were on the way home from area one night, and we were in Warrenton, Virginia, which is like an hour away from the office. So, like, we had a drive ahead of us.
Yeah.
Super hot day, just like, I don't know, it's probably middle of June. Maybe July. I honestly can't remember. But yeah, super hot day. Everyone's just cooked by the end of the night. Just like, whew, good day, but long day. Like, glad it's over. And so we're driving on this highway, and like, I kind of spot this like ice cream joint like in the distance on the right side of the highway. And I'm like, oh. Like, it just looked like, like old classic diner, like 50s type look, but like a lot smaller. And I was just like, dang. That looks really good. And so like I'm like, guys, like look at that ice cream stand over there, like that looks so good. And I thought we were just gonna drive by and people were just gonna be like, yeah, it looks good. But the response that I got was like, pull over, like let's go. Let's go. But by this time, I hadn't prepared for that, so I had already like passed this thing. And so I like basically totally legally, no, I'm joking, I totally crossed like a couple lanes of traffic, and I like pulled over, just kind of swerving through and pull over, just this immediately like split decision of like, oh my gosh, we're doing this, I guess. Then I like made a U-turn on the highway, came back, we like pulled up to this shop, and like that was just a really fun memory because like not only was Effie's ice cream absolutely fantastic, but it was like, dude, it was the the perfect ending to that day. And like everyone had worked super hard. It was super hot. But I just remember like hanging out with them, eating ice cream, and them making fun of my driving. But like, I was like, hey,
it was great.
You guys said you want to do this. Like, I'm going to make this happen. So yeah, it was a good time.
Dude, you make things happen for your reps all the time, man. And like, for sure, not only will people sell well, but like you're so committed and you care so much about your reps. Like they're going to have a lot of fun, man. And I think one of the things that kind of underscores your leadership is just like how you walk your reps through adversity. I think any rep that does this, particularly your first year, is going to have several days where you want to quit. You're going to have that customer that
just
yelled
my
at
first
you.
Year?
Yeah, only your first year. Only your first year. But, there's that rep that yells at you. There's something that goes on in the personal life. And especially that compounded over the adversity of this job, man, like it can be really discouraging, man. So like in that moment, how do you walk your reps through that?
Yeah. The biggest thing is like I really try to set solid expectations so that we minimize those occurrences.
Yeah.
But I think tying someone's why, someone's purpose to their actions is probably the biggest antidote.
Yeah.
And so I worked really hard with reps before the summer and starting what's called a first creation, super weird term. But basically to boil it down, like everything's created twice, right?
Yeah.
You have the house that's built, but before it was built, someone thought of that house, they created a blueprint, and then they made it. So people just didn't chop wood and start nailing, and to the boards and just like created this catastrophe. And so
yeah,
the summer is like that, man. I'm like, okay, this is the house that you want to build. Like this is the summer experience you want to have. Like, what's the blueprint? What are we going to do? And so when they can tie like, this is why I'm doing this, and this is the outcome I want to have, and this is the experience I want to have, that is what really helps them. Because what is that quote? A strong enough why can endure any how.
Yeah. That was me.
Yeah. Michael Scott, Chase Katowski. No, but I think that's really important, is just tying people's purpose to their actions. And so that way we all get in the doldrums, right? We all have days in the trenches where it's like, man, today sucks. And like helping them know that that's okay. Like it's totally okay to feel that way, but it'll move on. Like that feeling will pass through you. You aren't your feelings. Like that's not your identity. Like it's okay to feel crappy.
Yeah.
And so helping them really just remember like what their purpose is and who they are and what they're wanting to accomplish, and just also giving them the psychological space of knowing that like it's okay to feel really crappy.
Yeah.
Like let's not make it a habit, and like here's some things that we can do so that you can feel better about yourself and be kinder to yourself and like get out of this rut. But I think the biggest thing is really just tying people's actions to their purpose.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And kind of leading that a little bit, when I'm looking at the success that we have, which has been awesome, like I share this with you in Hawaii and all the leadership.
It's been more than awesome, dude.
It's been more than awesome. I feel for us to grow and get to the next level is like we need to help everyone we work with like deepen their sense of commitment. And I look at what you've been able to do, the way you work with your reps, like all the stories of you going out of your way to help them have a really amazing experience. Like you're obviously someone that's very deeply committed to those people you work with and your results, man. So moving forward, as we're working with reps, I'm also trying to help them understand, like, I feel like there's a little bit of a negative connotation with commitment. Like it's like handcuffs, but like really the people I've met are the most committed to their goals are the ones that are the most free, because they're focused and they're going to go hit the results and their goals no matter what. So I guess, would you mind speaking on like how you got such a deep sense of commitment and how you help those you work with like get committed to their goals?
Yeah. Dude, you're just making me sound way better than I am, so thanks.
Not true, but go forward.
So a couple of general thoughts and then maybe some application of how I did it with my team. But like, I think commitment, like you said, like that totally is the path to freedom. Like I think of Viktor Frankl, when he was basically in like the Nazi camps as a Jew. One thing that he said, between stimulus and response is man's ability to choose. Mm-hmm. And he said that even though they had more liberty, he had more freedom. So like they had more choices that they could make, but within his realm of choices that he could make, he had a better capacity to make the right choices and execute on them. And so I think really teaching my team is a big thing. Like part of this job, like, you know, it's part trainer, it's part babysitter, it's part inspirer, if that's even a word, right?
It is now.
It is now, right? And so, like, teaching my reps that your ability to choose something and then stay committed to it and fully see that through and execute on that, like, that is literally your pathway of growing to be more powerful to go and execute the things that you say you want to do. Because real handcuffs is not being able to do the things that you say you want, right? That sucks. Yeah. I have lots of those in my life, right? Yeah. I want to be better at X, Y, and Z, and I can't do them. So what do I need to do? I need to build up that muscle of being able to make and keep commitments to myself, seeing those things through, executing on them so that I can go and do that with bigger and better things. And so, I think, like, helping them see that really making and keeping commitments is the pathway to having that freedom, that's when it becomes good to follow up with them about their commitments, and then, you know, help them and meet them where they are, and then help them, you know, accomplish that commitment and then move on to a bigger one so that they feel that sense of accomplishment and then greater sense of freedom over time.
For sure, man. And I think that's one of the things you bring, man, is confidence, the ability to make commitments, and, like, helping your reps extend that throughout a year is pretty fun to watch you go do, man. And I'm really excited. You're already off to a hot start for summer 2023 in recruiting. But when you're recruiting, man, like, we do this thing, we build, like, our ideal rep, man. Like, what are you looking for in a rep to go work with?
Oh, man. I think the biggest thing for me, like, I love what you always say, you're looking for sharks, right?
Yep.
People who are tenacious. But, like, for me, the ideal person that I want to work with is, like, someone that wants to improve. Like, they have to have a desire for improvement, because I choose not to, like, understand people who are just really apathetic and, like, don't have any direction, don't want any direction. Just, like, I like to be outside of my comfort zone, and I like to at least try to grow, even though I totally fail, like, all the time.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing of someone that I want to work with is, like, they have to have that desire to improve, because when they have that desire to improve, like, they're going to want to go and do the things that are hard. They're going to want to go and do the things outside of their comfort zone. They're going to want to go and make and keep commitments to work harder, or make and keep commitments to do things with integrity, even though it's way easier to just lie to someone to get what you want, right? But, like, that's what I'm looking for, is someone that can live our core values, have integrity, be really grateful, make and keep commitments, work super hard, and then develop those communication skills. But I think the underlying thing is, like, really someone's ability to A, make and keep commitments, and B, like, want to improve.
I think the key is just want to improve, right? Like, I feel like sometimes rookie reps or people that know you might be a little bit intimidated, and they see all these great things you've accomplished and what you've done. And I think what you're
totally don't be intimidated. I'm a freaking goober.
He is an awesome goober. But I think the key is just like I'm not as great as I want to be at all those things either, right? I'm just trying to be more of those things in my life. And I think that's the key, is, like, as long as you have that desire, as long as you're willing to work, you can help them increase their work ethic. You can help them increase their ability to make and keep commitments.
I wanna add one more thing.
Okay, go.
Which, granted, if someone is always wanting to improve, then this won't be an issue. But someone who is not going to quit, like, that to me is really important. I literally only equate losing to quitting. Like, you literally can't lose if you don't quit.
Yep.
That's it. So, like, obviously, I think someone who wants to improve won't quit, but I think those go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think Tim said it best in one of his director of sales. The best way reps can be prepared for the summer is to, like, mentally commit to finishing no matter what.
Yeah.
Because, like, a lot of reps will go through 2, 3, 4, or 5 commitments, right? Like, they'll show up and they'll be like, oh, I want to finish the summer, but I've got this side job I could fall back on, or I can go back and work for this company, or I got this part-time job, or I've got my girlfriend.
Was it Warren Buffett or some? I can't remember what entrepreneur said this, but they basically said a salary is something that they pay you to let your dreams die or something. And I was like, whoa.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah.
And I agree, man. Like, there's so many guys that will come out with all these backup plans, and then they'll go out there, then they'll hit their first 2 weeks, and then it's just like, do I really want to be here or not, right?
Nah.
And then the leader will work really hard with them, and then they'll get them to commit, and then they'll sell, and then the next hard thing will happen. And then it's like they have to keep recommitting over the summer, and then they fall way short of like what they're totally potentially able to do. The reps that come out and say, no matter what, I'm not quitting, I'm going to figure this out, I'm going to be committed this summer, like, once they've made that commitment, there's so much mental and emotional energy that's wasted on the waffling.
It gives you power. Like, literally the thing that takes your power away is the non-decision. Like, so going back to my story, right? You asked me about how I got into it.
Yeah.
When we went out, right, I had $300 in my bank account, right? That means literally I'm paying for gas to go across the country and I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
So like, for me, it was literally succeed or die. Like, that was the only option in my mind. And so when I went out there with Brooke, we were both committed, and like literally no matter what happened, like we were going to do this thing and we were going to see it through. And the moment that I started having that adversity and responding in that manner of like, yeah, literally the decision's already made. Like, I already cut off all other ties and like, this is what I'm doing. That is when I really started to hit my stride, and it just clicked. And that's when the success started coming. But if I didn't make that decision, no way it would have happened.
Well, and speaking of like commitments and success, man, I think just to kind of preface this, like a common, I don't know if the words objection or concern people have is if they're married or they're engaged, they have a girlfriend, like the time commitment and sacrifice, what that might mean to the relationship. Yeah. And we'll say on the surface, I'm just kidding, you have a super amazing, awesome relationship with your wife.
And deep down, dude.
And deep down.
We're about to have a little baby.
But you guys are like one of the happiest couples I've ever met. And you guys for sure
thanks.
have sacrificed, I'd say, a lot in time to be where you're at. And all of my top performing reps, they're actually all married. Like every single one. And I think it says a lot about the person you're with and about getting on the same page. So anybody that's coming into the summer that is married or looking to get married, not be concerned about it, like what advice would you give them?
I think, just once a week host a fight club with your wife, just awesome. Get all the aggression out. For me, like you said, it's really just being on the same page. Like, we don't improve our communication skills for nothing, right? Like, one of the biggest roles and the most important roles in my life is my ability to be the best husband that I can be. Like, that's a desire that I have. And so everything that I'm learning about human interaction and communication, like, I'm not just going to leave that on the doors. Like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Like, I really want to improve my marriage and have the best marriage ever. So I have to take the skills that I'm learning and translate that into my marriage. But that's just the skills side. The real thing is like, just strive to be better and have the right character. And like, I will say, as I've been working here at Moxie, like, I've become more of the person that I want to be, become more of the husband that I want to be. And I mean, maybe she can say this, but hopefully someone that Brooke's more proud of being with.
Yeah. She looks at you the same way I look at you, so I think that's
good. I could take that somewhere else. But yeah, so like, I think if anyone's like, oh, I'm married, I'm worried about this. Like, for me, I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for.
Well, how about this? What advice would you give anyone before they come this summer to walk away in an improved relationship and in a better place?
Yeah. So going back to like speaking for myself, what I did is like, I'm committed to my wife and I'm committed to seeing this through. And like, outside of that, it's all appendages. Like, once those two things fell into place, it became a lot easier. Like, I was able to give the time to my wife, even if it was less, it was quality. And I just focused on being the right person for her as much as I could, even if it was less time. And I'm totally not perfect at that. Sometimes I'm totally checked out, right?
Yeah.
In fact, she'll probably tell you a lot of times, like, when I'm not listening, or I'm like, she's trying to tell me something and I'm like on a call, or I don't know. But like, I think it just goes back to like, I'm trying, right? Like, I did my best and I committed to her, and then I committed to seeing this through. And both of those commitments, like, once I cut off all other ties, both of those commitments really gave me the power to like execute on both of those things. And so, and then, the things that I learned here, like, I apply that to my most important relationships So
Yeah.
it helps.
And just kind of going, I guess, a little bit less deep. I think I could drop you, you know, in the middle of Alaska, and you put on, you know, $2 million in revenue. But we've been selling in the DC markets for a few years now. Tell me why you left selling in the DC area.
It'd be so cold. Actually, Alaska is one of the 3 states that I haven't been to. So
Yeah.
yeah, DC is sweet, man. Like, there's always stuff to do. My wife and I have been there, 4 years, right? Going on 5. And we still are like, we've experienced almost nothing there. Like, there's so much to experience. It's really fun. Fun date nights, fun team activities. But, like, my favorite part is the doors there. Like, selling in DC is awesome. Great market. Phenomenal market. Like, what are we knocking 3 or 5 of like the top 10 wealthiest?
7.
Okay. So 7 of the top 10 wealthiest counties in the US. So like, yeah, it's fun. Our contract value, super high, which is really good for reps. It's really good for retention. So yeah, those are a couple highlights, but there's more.
Yeah. Well, I think you'd have fun anywhere, but DC helps out a little bit.
I'd have fun in Alaska, man.
I'd have fun in Alaska too. Man.
Never been there, but I just assume I'd have fun.
That's Moxie 2024.
Oh gosh, don't send me there.
And then just kind of lastly, man, I think we've talked a lot about it, but just briefly, why should someone work with you, Matt?
Because I work with you. No, I'm just joking.
Cut. I'm just kidding.
No, I don't know, man. This is making me talk about myself a lot. I just, going back to the beginning, like, I really just care about my reps. Like, yeah. I don't know if there's anyone else that's gonna like bend over backwards and do stuff for the reps like I do.
Yeah.
And like, not to boast, but like, I just, like I said, I really care about who I work with. Like, I do, and I want them to go and achieve like what their dreams and hopes are. Like, I care about that, and so everyone that works with me, I just really try hard to get them at least one step closer to the person that they want to be and the dreams they want to achieve. And, you know, I would say I'm good at a couple action items. Like, I'm really good at accountability, following up with people. I'm decently okay at maybe inspiring them. But I think that really just comes down to like listening to them and understanding where they're coming from. And then if they need advice, like, I'll give them advice. But like, I really just try to help mentor and teach my reps to push them in the right direction, because I want them to be successful. So.
Yeah, and I feel that your reps feel that. That's why they all sign back on so quickly. It's why you're recruiting so well and why you're growing. Yeah, we'll see what shows up.
Yeah.
But yeah, for what it's worth, man, I think anybody that's looking around, anybody that has an opportunity to come work, like, I for sure have a conversation with you, man, because you for sure love your reps. You see them finish to the end, and you're in the trenches with them day in and day out, and like, you're the reason why they're so successful, man.
Love the trenches.
Love the trenches.